Welcome, everybody. I am here today with Chevalo and Monique Wilsondebriano. They have just released their new book, From Kitchen to Cash Register. Now, this book is great. I got it as soon as they announced it on Instagram, read through the whole thing. It's a really great resource for both emerging brands looking to get on the shelves, but also somebody that's considering launching a brand. Maybe they got a cool recipe, a family recipe, and they want to actually, see it, bring it to life, and share it with other people. So it's got everything that you need to know to kind of go along that journey. So we're going to dive into some topics from the book, but before we do that, I want everybody to get a little background on Monique and Chevalo because they were both brand owners, and then they also have the Recipe for Retail group, through which they help emerging brands get on the shelves. A lot of their members of the program come to ECRM sessions. They're all on Range Me. I've met and interviewed a lot of them over the past couple of years. So a great group. It's like a gang. It's we have a lot of fun together at the sessions. So thanks for joining us. And yeah, to start off, give us a little background on Monique and Chevalo and what as brand owners.
Well, I would say for us, everything has come full circle,
Mhm.
and it's crazy when we look back because our first date was at McDonald's.
That's
Okay.
right.
If you can believe it, I let Chevalo take me to McDonald's. That was a cheap first date. I had two cheeseburgers and a french fry, but we love hamburgers. And that was a love, an interest right from the beginning, right?
From the beginning, just love burgers. And so, as Monique and I started dating, we'd have to like find wherever had the great burgers, wherever, like
Mhm.
if we'd go to a different city or a different town, and we'd have to figure out, well, do a Google search, who had the best burgers. And so we'd have to just go to that spot to figure out where the best burgers are and try them. And Monique and I, that was really part of our history and part of our journey,
Mhm.
being able to try these different burger joints all over the place. So we loved doing that.
Yeah, we love doing that. But what happened, we would do that for, we would with our children. But what happened after 9/11? Chevalo survived 9/11. We didn't know he was alive until about 5:30, 6:30 that night is when I found out he survived. And then after that, we said, well, I said, one, you're going to marry me because we've been dating for 10,000 years. So I was like, we're getting married. We're leaving New York. And we did. We ended up leaving New York for Charleston, South Carolina, but we didn't know anyone. We didn't know any, we didn't have any friends, we didn't have any family, nothing. And so one of the first things we did is we had a huge barbecue. It's something we love to do. And so we invited all of our family, friends, our neighbors, because we had a live band. So I figured if they're here partying with us, they can't call the police on us. So we invited them, even though we didn't know
Did you
them.
have burgers at the wedding?
Well, what we did, Chevalo decided, well, we're gonna make this fantastic hamburger, right?
Because we loved burgers, but the first idea was, okay, we're going to just get basic burgers, hamburgers that everyone does. They get
Mhm.
frozen burgers from the supermarket and they just put it on the grill. But we're like, listen, we love burgers, and Monique and I, by that time, from going to all these different burger joints, we developed a kind of an idea in our head, like a rough idea, that what we love about the burgers is that we love burgers that were juicy and
Mm-hmm.
burgers that were tender and tasty. And we just felt that the best burgers are the ones that could stand on its own, where you don't have to add a bunch of condiments to it in order to make it tasty. So
Right.
with just that basic framework, Monique and I figured, all right, let's just go to a local market here in Charleston. Let's get some fresh, robust ingredients to put inside the burger meat to make the burger meat itself tasty.
Mm-hmm.
So we had onions and scallions and different garlics and freshly grown.
Mhm.
We mixed that into the meat before we cooked it. But the issue was, at this cookout was going to be the debut, but we had never tried it
We
ourselves.
got busy. We invited over 100 people. We were crazy, and people started showing up early, and so we didn't have time to taste it. So I just said to Chevalo, "We're just gonna serve it. like whatever. Like people have gone to a barbecue and eaten something they hated. If they don't like it, they'll find something else. We had like a chef, doing like
Yeah.
we had like shrimp and grits. We had pulled
Yeah.
pork. We had Caribbean. We had all kind of food. So I was like, they'll figure something out. They hate it. So
Yeah.
we did it. And like we really forgot about it, right? And my mother
Yeah.
stops me like 45 minutes into the barbecue. She's like, what did you do to those hamburgers? And I just kind of keep walking and ignore, like I don't hear her because I thought that meant they're terrible, right?
Mm.
So then she stops me again, and she like this time she's like, "What did you do to those hamburgers?" So I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Look at your grill." And my poor brother-in-law, who's supposed to be a guest, he is at the grill. He has on his nice clothes, and he's trying to help make burgers. And there are people literally, I wish we would have thought to take a picture of it. It was like 30 people at the grill with their plates and they're just talking and just waiting patiently. Everybody, they had formed a
And the
line,
poor guy was grilling all day, huh?
grilling all day. And like, that's all people wanted. They couldn't get enough of the hamburgers. And I just laughed and I said to Chevalo, oh, we should sell these. But I would really just said it as a
Hmm.
joke.
Yeah.
And so we did another barbecue, and everyone, whenever they would RSVP, they would say, I'm coming only if you make those hamburgers. So that's when we were like, oh my goodness, we may have something. And so we tried
Yes.
it. We said, okay, we'll give this 6 months. If it works, we'll keep going. If not, we'll go back to our lives the way it is. And we never stopped. And it just blew up. It just blew up.
And that's how Charleston Gourmet Burger Company was born. That was our product company.
Hmm.
Excellent. And how did that grow? Like what did you go through as a brand owner um from that experience?
So as a brand owner, I we said to ourselves, you know what? We have to have proof of concept. And so yes, our family and friends were part of the proof
Hmm.
of concept, but we didn't know if people who weren't our family and friends
Yeah.
were gonna like these
Yes.
marinated burgers that we like. So we applied for a farmers market down in Charleston, and it's kind of a notorious farmers market. People come from all around the world. They visit Charleston, so it's really a big time. It's a whole a committee that's necessary to become part of the farmers market. There's
Hmm.
waiting lists and all that. Bottom line is, we were up against a whole bunch of competition to get into this farmers market. We really didn't even think we could
Hmm.
until we saw the chefs, because there was a group of like 5 judges, a judges panel. They went around. They had people with elaborate menus and different foods from different countries, and then they came to us to audition our burger. And I remember them asking us, what do you
They were
have?
like, "What do you have?" And I was like, "Well, we've got burgers." And then I went around. I kind of snooped. I saw other people's stuff. They had like 10 things. So I was like, "All we have is burgers." So I ran to the Piggly Wiggly up the road, and I got like I made my mom's church tea. She makes this tea at her church. So I was like, "We'll do church tea and burgers, and then we'll add potato chips." So that was it. But I mean, they tasted it, Joe, and it was like the judge, and I watched him throw other people's stuff in the trash.
Yeah, other people's displays. They would just take a one taste of it, and then that was good enough, and then they'd put it off to the side. We watched these really tight judges take one bite of our burger, look at it, turn it around, take another bite. We watched these judges eat the entire burger, and they just looked back at us. They were just enjoying these burgers. And it made us feel like, okay, we have a chance.
We have a
Hmm.
chance, and we got into that farmers
We
market. But
sure
I will tell
did.
you, from there, Joe, the word spread. College kids started eating it. But one of the things that really made our brand, explode, and I think a lot of brand owners skip this part, is the brand story
Exactly.
Hmm.
and really letting the consumer and the retailer know, like, why are you doing this, who's
Mhm.
behind this brand.
Yeah.
And instead of just coming up with a product because you want to make money,
Hmm.
like who doesn't, but like where's the substance,
Yeah.
why are you doing this? And that helped us
It
tremendously,
helped
right?
us tremendously. And the truth is that I speak for me. I wanted our burgers to stand on their own.
Yeah.
And because I felt these burgers were fantastic. So
Mhm,
I didn't necessarily want our face on the brand. I didn't
mhm,
necessarily want people to see us or to be able to evaluate our demographics or anything like that. I just wanted our burger marinade, our burgers, actually at that time were just burgers that we were making at the farmers market to stand on its own. And until our public relations person kind of let us know this lesson that
mhm,
people don't want to just follow a product, they want to
mhm,
follow a brand.
Right. And as Chevalo always says, people buy from people.
mhm,
And we ended up hiring a publicist, and thank God we did, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And we knew in the beginning, and it's also important for brand owners, what do you want your brand to look like?
mhm,
As far as your exit strategy, do you want to be a nation? Do you want to go nationwide? Do you want to go international? Do you want to stay local? We knew we wanted to take on the world. We
mhm.
knew we wanted to be everywhere. We
Yeah.
knew that. And so in order to do that, we knew we had to kind of set the tone
Mhm.
for our brand. And so, that meant, having that good brand story, which we did, which we
Well, your whole life story as a couple revolves around burgers. So it just makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense, but here's the crazy thing. And again, I think a lot of brand owners miss this. We weren't initially going to ever tell
Yeah.
anyone about that.
Mhm,
We were never going to tell anyone about that.
That's right.
Ever. Like, no one would have known that. But that, in essence, that is what Charleston Gourmet Burger Company was,
mhm,
But originally, we just felt like, hey, we have a good product, we're going to put it out there, and that'll be enough. But it's not enough just to have a good
mhm.
product. You need so much more, right?
Yep. So then now you had the burgers, you had proof of concept at the farmers market, right? Outside validation beyond the family and friends. And so how did you grow it from there? Like what did kind of distribution did you end up with? Because now you got the story, you got the product, now you got to go do the legwork and get into retail. So how did that journey work out?
So what happened was, because we were getting so much buzz around Charleston, the Food Network, they were casting for a TV show, and I think they must have like emailed like our, the local newspaper here is the Post and Courier. And so the food editor, or I don't know if she knew the person or how it went, but bottom line, she's like, you've got to cast this couple. Like they have this amazing burger. And like she like gave us a
Hmm.
total plug. And so simultaneously Chevalo heard about it
Yeah.
and applied, and they reached out and they were like, yeah, you guys are just referred to us by your, by the food editor. And so, we went through all the stuff you go through, and lo and behold, we got cast for a show on the Food Network. That really put us on a national stage, because now people are coming from all over to the small market just to see us. Now, retailers are like, we saw y'all on the Food Network. When is this product going to be ready? And so it kind of sent people knocking at our door.
Yeah.
But go
Yeah, so we had to make a decision at that point because people would come to Charleston Farmers Market to get our cooked burgers with meat that we actually sell at the farmers market, but they would go back home to Arkansas, they go
Mhm,
back home to Texas, they go back home to California. What do we do? So
mhm,
my original idea was, you know what? We are going to vacuum pack these burgers. We're going to make a whole bunch in our
mhm,
commercial kitchen. We're going to vacuum pack it, and we are going to just ship them to anywhere that people want these burgers, these frozen burgers. And however, Monique came up with an ingenious idea.
Yeah, I said we're not going to do that because we'll kill people. So we're not gonna ship meat through the mail with a block of ice. We're not gonna do that. So I said, let's think about why people love our hamburgers. Okay, they love the way they taste, right? So if we bottle the seasoning, the marinade, what makes it taste good, they can get their meat anywhere, right?
mhm,
So that became the product, the marinade. That was the
Yes.
product. So
mhm.
So we took that burger that everyone liked, we broke it down and we made it a shelf stable product. And that was key for us launching into retail because, we know, new people don't know, but we know launching a shelf stable product is much more cost effective.
Mhm.
It's easier to get into retail that way rather than having a frozen product. So that became the product.
Yeah,
And
2 year shelf life with our
to your shelf
marinade as
life,
Mhm.
opposed to days,
Yeah.
with a frozen product.
it's eco-friendly. It's in a plastic bottle, so we can ship it wherever. It's lightweight. So that became the product. And so, we were having people calling us, but Chevalo and I, like I said, we wanted everything like yesterday. So we got in our car and we went into Whole Foods and we started pitching ourselves. And we didn't even know if that was the way you should do
Mhm.
it. But we were excited and that was the way we did it. And so
Yeah.
we went into Whole Foods. I started calling, I got the store manager to give me Harris Teeter's corporate number, and we started calling every day. And I called so much, Joe, that like on like the 32nd day, the lady answered the phone and she's like, "Is this that burger lady?" And I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "You're on my new supplier list. Check your email." Click. I was like, I was like, check, we're in our theater. And we just kept going. We just
Mhm.
kept going. We ended up busting up a Walmart meeting, which we didn't actually tell Walmart this until like we were in for like 3 years. So I was like, well, they can't do anything now because we've been suppliers for 3 years. So like literally, like we were so excited to get our product into the mouths of the consumer.
Mhm.
We got out there and we hustled and we did what we
Yes.
have to do. Sometimes we would leave home in the morning. Shavala would go one way on the highway, I would go another, and then we would meet back in the evening.
Mhm.
We'd load up our car. Our kids smelled like sauce. Sometimes I would bring my dog. Our dog smelled like sauce. And we just did what we had to do to get the product out there and to get it into the mouths of the consumer. And it paid off. It really paid off.
Yes.
Well, I love that hustle. I love that hustle. And the thing is, I think, and it's a natural progression looking, in hindsight, but your experience and all the hustle that you did, and, I'm sure mistakes were made along the way. We'll get into some of that.
Yeah.
But also, it set the groundwork for what you do with Recipe for Retail in helping other brands because you've done it. You've been through it. You know what works, you know what doesn't work, and you know how things evolve as a brand over the years and depending on the situation. So, can you talk a little bit about how you're helping other brands now with Recipe for Retail? And then we'll dive into the book.
Right. And so that came about when people would see us, right, in Sam's Club and Costco.
Yeah, to see when we're doing like the in-store demos,
Hmm.
we'd be doing that at Costco or Sam's Club. And listen, so many people have an apple pie that they
Hmm.
make, or a potato salad that has been passed down the recipe, or some ziti. They have this, and they would look at us and they'd say, "Wow, you're the couple. I saw you in Better Homes and Garden magazine. I saw you in on QVC." Because at that point we were really flowing
Hmm.
and doing these great things, or saw you on TV with the Food Network. How did you do that? How did you get your product to the point where it's actually in stores? And we'd be so grateful that they would ask us that,
Hmm.
but we just didn't have the time. You can't explain
Yeah.
that in 30 seconds.
No.
Yeah. And then again and again and again and again
And
and
again and
again.
again and again and
Right.
again. And so, we would always feel bad when we get emails. We would answer them as best we could. But it was just kind of like, when the world shut down a few
Hmm.
years ago, the pandemic, it was the perfect time.
Hmm.
We started off with a small group of 6 people.
That
And
we said we're going to teach them the process
yeah,
of
Okay.
that time. That
yeah,
time, even with Charleston Gourmet Burger Company, of course, everyone ran into some supply chain,
yeah.
issues during that time.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So, but this was a perfect storm.
It
Six
was the
people.
perfect storm. So we started with 6 people. And today, we've grown that to, now we have over 300 people in our intimate accelerator. We've helped, through our webinars and our other
Hmm.
classes, over 16,000 people. But, we work hands on with about 300 entrepreneurs. now, helping them get their products in retail. So that way they're not making the mistakes we were making, doing
Hmm.
unnecessary things, trying to open up their own co-packing facility from the
Yeah.
beginning when you don't need
Yeah.
to do that,
Yep.
like stuff like that, trying to create some special custom bottle that no one has, like it's a total waste of money. So, helping them to just not make those mistakes, being able to make those retail connections and knowing what to do when you make the connection, because some people are fortunate enough to actually be connected to a retailer,
Hmm.
but when they get to them, the product's not retail ready. They have
Yep.
no idea how to present the information. They don't know how it should be priced, different things like that. So those people that make the connection and we get them to, the retailer ends up telling them no because they're
Hmm.
not really ready. They talk themselves out of the opportunity because they're not ready.
Yeah.
So those are, a lot of the things that we do help them with. And that's one of the things, like, we role play with our members. Like, I am the
Hmm.
buyer. And I don't mind being a mean buyer either. Like, I
That's
want to,
important.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
want them to go in there and get to that table and be so prepared and to be so ready. We like for our members to be overly prepared,
Hmm.
different types of pricing, what does that look like?
Hmm.
So we even have like a for acronyms for retail. We even give them a glossary. So that way, if you get one of those retailers that wants to come in there and speak in acronyms,
Yeah.
you got them. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so we try to like really, really prepare them. So when they get to that table, they're cool, they're calm, they're collected. They know exactly what they're doing.
Gotcha. So if I sign up for the accelerator program, right? I'm a new brand or I'm thinking of launching, whatever. I sign up for it. What comes with that? All right. I know you have the Wednesday webinars for
Yeah.
educational, but like what comes with that once I get in the group?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so once you get in the group, you have access to video modules that
Hmm.
Monique and I took the time out and we recorded several video modules that take people from wherever they are. And we
Hmm.
like everybody really start from the beginning. I mean, from recipe idea to recipe development to the manufacturing process to the packaging process to labeling to UPC codes, insurance, there's all the basic foundation steps, and then all the way up to the whole process of getting the retail, and then how to actually pitch your product to retail, how to actually do a buyer meeting. So the whole entire process, and that's over several modules. They learn how
Hmm.
to do that. So that's one of the first things that they do have access to.
Yeah, so they have their own dashboard they can log into. All of their information is in there. So all of their modules. And like Chevalo said, the reason we have it like that, because people are busy. People have
Hmm.
families. So we want you to be able to consume the information and really learn it at your own pace. So maybe it might take you 2 days to get through module one. But if we're doing it live and I'm just
Yes.
telling you, you're gonna miss something. So
Right.
Hmm.
we record it so that way, I am a 70s baby. I like to take notes, 80s baby. I take notes. So I have, we have a workbook, we have worksheets. If you don't like to take notes, you don't have to use that,
Hmm.
but that is included and that does keep you organized through the process. We do provide them with a list of manufacturers. And so we have them in all categories. So you do have that. We do have a section on Range Me, because we do have everyone sign up for a Range Me account. So if you are in Recipe for Retail, you better have your Range Me account because we do check. So
We
you have a
appreciate
Range Me
that.
account. Yep. And then after we know that their product is retail ready and
Hmm.
they're good to go, so then we then move them to ECRM so that they are ready to pitch. So we do help them get to the table to pitch their product. And we also have the template. So like
Yeah.
your PowerPoint, we give
Hmm.
them a PowerPoint template in the program. So that way they're not going in there with a 22-page PowerPoint that no one has time to read. No one's
Yeah.
reading, that's 10-minute meetings. No one has time to read 22 pages. So, so we give them that, price sheets. So when you go into that buyer meeting, not only are you prepared, for what you're saying. Your presentation is flawless. So
Hmm.
we do give them that as well.
And you kind of touched on it, Joe. The community of Recipe
Hmm.
for Retail is probably the one of the biggest great things
Yeah.
about
Most
Recipe for
valuable.
Retail, but absolutely valuable. You get to be part of the private Facebook group. It's only people who are in the Recipe for Retail who are signed members. And so you have people all going in the same direction. They're sharing ideas. And what we love about it is the positivity in Recipe for
Yeah.
Retail. No competition, nobody. I mean,
No.
there may be a couple different people with a type of salad or a
Mhm.
type of barbecue sauce, but
Mhm.
nobody's like cutthroat or oh no,
Yeah.
I mean, it's none of that.
No.
Everybody's going the same direction. This category is, CPG business is it's so broad. There's so much
Hmm.
room for everybody. And as well as you touched on, we do group coaching once a week where everybody is able to come and we get to have guests like yourself come on, come on
Yes.
there, and people from Range Re, ECRM. We have had someone from Shark Tank come on.
Yeah.
It's
It's
really
fun.
incredible.
It's a fun group, and just talking from my experience in it, right, from an outside perspective. One, your Facebook group, what I noticed is the people are very engaged. They're
Mhm.
talking to each other, they're talking back and forth with you guys. They're very active in there, which is awesome. They help each other out. And then when we get together, and then your meetings, you got a lot of people show up. There's a lot of back and forth. I remember when I was on there, I had a ton of back and forth with the Q&A and stuff. So it's a very engaged group, and I think that's really important. And then that also reflects in person. I know we give you guys your own space for all the Recipe for Retail members, and there it ends up being like a big round table, like in between meetings, everyone's talking because a lot of times they haven't met in person. It's like they're meeting in person for the first time. So I noticed that first time I met you guys back in Vegas, you had that big room, and it was like a little party. Like when it was quiet in between meetings, it was like a party in there. And then they also had, everybody was really quick to go and chat with each other and help each other out and compare notes and stuff. So yeah, I think it's a great program. I highly recommend it, and it's a fun group too. So you guys have done a great job with that.
Thank you. I'm so proud of them. And I tell them that all the time. I was recently sick, and so we took 3 weeks off, 3.5 weeks off. But when I peeked back in the Facebook group, they were taking care of each other.
Hmm.
And that is what's so beautiful. Sending each other like this is my phone number. Okay, I'm gonna call you. Like they really, they were like, okay, Monique is sick, Chevalo's taking care of her. We're gonna step in and we're
Hmm.
gonna help each other. And that's what they did.
Hmm.
And I love that. And I feel so blessed that these people are in our community because
Hmm.
we couldn't have made this up. Like
Yeah.
these people are just beautiful and amazing. And so we tell people that when they're thinking of coming in the program, like you're not only getting us, you're getting this amazing community, and they just love each other.
Mhm. No, it's great. It's great. And now the book is like a natural progression of that because it's open. Everybody can get the book and it gives them a little taste of that, a nice exposure. So now we talked before. I'm not going to give away too much from the book. I'm going to read through the title chapters, and then
Okay.
what we're going to do is there's one chapter that's chapter 11, Lessons from the Shelf, Mistakes, Wins, and What We Do Differently. And that chapter we're going to cover because through I think it's 6 lessons that you learned in there, that section touches on a lot of insights that are throughout the book. So we're going to focus on that chapter so we don't give away everything because I want you guys to get the book. But basically, just to let you know the chapters. So, chapter 1, the mindset of a retail brand founder. Chapter 2, defining your signature product. Chapter 3, know your market. Chapter 4, recipe for retail readiness checklist. So, they got a checklist there for everybody. Make sure you're ready to get going.
That's it.
Chapter 7, pitching like a pro. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Chapter 8, distribution and shelf placement strategies.
Mhm.
9 is from local to national, scaling up your brand. Very important thing
Right.
to know. And then chapter 10, building a brand, not just a product. So
That's
as you can
right.
see, every step along the way, from the very beginning to growing to getting on the shelf and then staying there. So,
Yeah.
um, so we're gonna dive into chapter 11, lessons from the
Okay.
shelf. Um, so we'll just go lesson by lesson because I have a few things I want to talk to you about in within those too. But
Hmm.
lesson one, focus on product category first. Tell us
Yes.
about that.
Yes, because sometimes we get people that say, I have a potato salad, but I also make this brisket, and then I got this killer ice cream, and they're like, all over the place.
Hmm.
And we're like, listen, let's pick one. We're going to
Hmm.
start with one, and let's focus on this particular category first, this product first. And I think that's important because sometimes being a new brand and you want everything at once,
Hmm.
I love the excitement, but sometimes that can hurt you
Right.
because you're a new product, you're a new supplier. The retailer doesn't know,
Hmm.
like is this gonna work? Like they don't know you, and you're coming in and wanting everything, and especially some of the newer brands, they've never been in retail before, and so sometimes we have to scale them back and say, listen, we can put that down for future offerings, but we're
Hmm.
going to focus on one category
Hmm.
first, and then we'll go back and get the other stuff later. And that's what we did.
That's what
That's
we
what we did.
did. And one great thing about that, when you do it the right way, which we feel is the right way,
Hmm.
when you get one product, one category on the shelf, and a retailer knows you, it's then easier to onboard
Hmm.
additional
Hmm.
offerings. So it makes it easier. So we try to explain that in Recipe for Retail. People who want to do everything.
Right.
Just get in your
Yeah.
first, get in your first, get your foot in the door. And then once you get some sales and they see that your product is going to move, it's so much easier.
And also, I'll say one more thing. Another thing we tell them is don't try to bring everything. Like we have some people that have 20 different types of spices. Let's pick your top three. Okay,
Yeah.
because it's limited shelf space. You're a
Hmm.
new supplier. They're not giving you 20 placements. Like that's not
Yes.
happening. Okay. So let's pick your top three and then we'll go from there. They're not gonna give you 20 placements off the back. Okay.
Well, it's important to establish that beachhead, right? You get in there and you build the relationships. And I'm going to skip around because
Yeah.
that's lesson number 5. But I think it's very important in the context of what you just said with lesson number 1 is
Mm-hmm.
that, you get that product in there. It's not just getting one product in there, it's establishing that relationship with the buyer, with the retailer. And, we do business, like you said earlier, we do business with people, not with companies, not so you get that relationship going. And then so talk a little bit about relationships and the importance of how that kind of greases the wheels for everything.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, yes, as people are people. We
Hmm.
may look at it as an entity. We may look at the Walmart and the Whole Foods and the Krogers of the world as being these corporate entities, but they're people.
Hmm.
The people who you're going to meet with, and people in general love to work with people who they like
Yeah.
and who they can establish a relationship with. And yes, it helps if you have a great product, if you have a great product, because yes, at the end of the day, yes, people say, well, what about sales? Yeah,
Hmm.
sales are important.
The product can't suck. That's
Right.
that's
Yes.
that's that's
That's
number one. You got to
it.
So that's just table stakes. The product's got to be good.
Products gotta be good. But
Yeah.
another thing we do work on, as far talking about relationships is, there is some psychology behind it because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we get people that come in and in the beginning they're impatient, they're hotheads, and that doesn't work with retail,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're first coming in. You're not the only person going on the shelf. There's a
Yeah.
whole new set sometimes. They have a lot of new suppliers to work through. So it might take a few weeks for you to get an email. Don't email your buyer like every day, like crazy emails. Like you have to establish a relationship. Do not be high maintenance because they don't get on their nerves. So,
Mm-hmm.
some of the things we tell them, one of the things I feel blessed is we always became friends with our buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to know how to be a good supplier.
Yeah.
You have to be able to establish that relationship with the retailer. And there's so many different things that come into play, but you don't want to be a bad supplier. You want to be able to establish that good relationship, be able to ship on time,
Exactly.
deliver the
Hmm.
product on time. Set that good foundation, especially you have future offerings and you want to be around on the shelf a long time. Be a good supplier and make sure you are establishing that good relationship with the buyer, with the retailer.
Hmm.
And remember, like, we're solving a problem for the retailer. It's not just about money, right?
Hmm.
We're also solving a problem for them. So we want to be a good supplier to say, hey, we're helping the retailer. This is how we're helping bring people in the door. So being a good supplier, establishing that good relationship with the buyer, with the retailer, and it will go so far. So
Yeah.
far.
And I think that's a good point too, is, it's from what I've seen in the interviews I've done over the years, the brands that are very successful tend to focus more. They develop deeper relationships with fewer retailers rather than trying to shotgun it. Like a good example, I just moderated a panel at our Founders Innovation Day in New York, and one of the panelists was Fire Department Coffee.
Okay.
They're very successful now, but he would actually turn away or turn down opportunities with some retailers because he didn't want to spread himself too thin. Like his main thing was Walmart, right? Because it's the number one place where people buy coffee, and their price range was, and their mission, they want to get out there. So he really, really developed a relationship with them. And now, 5 years later, no, not even, like 3 years later from getting the open call, he's got 10 SKUs in 27,000 different points of distribution throughout all the Walmarts around the country. But he
Beautiful.
said specifically, going narrow but deep, right? And
Mhm.
the relationship, because it lets you kind of evolve with them in a
Mm.
way. And so what are your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree with that because that is how. Now, when we originally got in Walmart, it was through the very first open call that they had.
Hmm.
And so we started with 200, I think 200 stores or something like that. And we started off very, very small with Walmart with one product.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what we did. That was
Hmm.
our exact path. And so, slow and steady, Walmart was always our number one retailer as far as our distribution. And I think that is wise, advice. I think that's very smart. And also for new brands, you're learning how to be a supplier, right? You're
Hmm.
learning how to track your inventory.
Yeah.
So many different things you need to know, especially if you're dealing with Walmart.
Hmm.
So I think that's smart. Definitely grow with the retailer.
Yeah.
And I think definitely you will again, what'd you say, 3.5 years, 4 years for him?
Yeah, something like that. It's relatively quickly.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're doing that, it's more
Yeah.
steady, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
you,
5 years ago, he was only in 8 stores. When I
you,
first interviewed him, he was only in 8 Meyer stores. That's it. It was mostly direct to consumer. And so it just happened. So, but it looks like it was it came out
mhm.
of nowhere, but no, it was that very methodical building relationships. And then sure, it took off, but it was the relationships that did it.
Yeah.
Relationship. And one thing we do talk about in the book as you're establishing that listen, you want to be a brand. You want to be a brand. You
Hmm.
don't want to just be a product, even if it's just starting out with one product, but you want to grow alongside with the retailer. And a
Hmm.
lot of the retailers that we speak to at these buyer meetings, when we talk informally, they say that they don't want just a product. They
Hmm.
want a brand that they can grow with, which is
Hmm.
why Monique also said that kind of the sweet spot. We want to have like three products there that we want to present at these buyer meetings, even if only one is going to get shelf space or only two.
Hmm.
But they want to see that you're going to grow and you're going to be a brand, not just a one product.
Gotcha. And speaking of that, I think it's also good, and you mentioned this at some point in the book, start locally, start regionally. Don't overextend yourself because, like you said, you're learning how to be a supplier, at the same time. So don't go national right off the bat if you don't have the infrastructure, inventory, and supply chain to handle it. Start local, start, at the farmers market, then you go to the local independent retailers, and then as you scale organically, your capabilities will scale too.
Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you, when with Recipe for Retail, as I told you, we go through the whole entire process of being ready,
Hmm.
having a packaged product, being ready. Have to thank Range Me and ECRM to deliver this last deliverable, which is to have the opportunity to
Hmm.
actually get shelf space. So without Range Me and ECRM, we couldn't do this. However, when we do role playing with, as Monique says, the buyer. One of the questions that may seem like a trick question is when they ask the supplier, how many stores do you want?
Hmm.
How many stores do you want? So Walmart's going to ask them, how many stores do you want?
Hmm.
And of course, they want to say,
Yeah,
They want to say all of
all
them.
of them. Yeah.
So in Recipe for Retail, we teach them you are not going to say all of them.
Hmm.
You might be thinking all of them,
Yeah.
but start off locally. And
Hmm.
a lot of our members, you'll see Lori and Shane Janvino, they're doing
Hmm.
Texas with Walmart. Start off locally in your local footprint
and we
because
make sure they do the homework to know how many stores, right? And
exactly.
Hmm.
We know exactly before the buyer meetings, what we do is we know exactly how many Walmart stores, neighborhood stores there are in their local
their
it,
local region.
yeah, local region.
Hmm.
We know locally, we know in their state, their region, all of that. So we've already done that ahead of time when we prep
Mhm.
them for their meetings. If you do have,
Yeah.
we because again, when you're getting to the table, you can't go in there and say, I don't know. No, there is no I don't know. You're
Hmm.
meeting with one of the largest retailers in the world. How many stores do you think you can support? You have
Yeah.
to be able to say it. That's one of the things Chevalo and I do work on with them. Start off locally. We cannot emphasize that enough. Sometimes, new suppliers, again, they want everything, but retail is a long game.
Hmm.
Right.
It's just
Yep.
not get rich quick. This is the long, you're playing the long game. So you have to be very intentional with what you're doing. And sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes people don't make it. People
Yep.
leave before because they want it like that. They want it quick.
Yeah.
I want it.
Nothing
It's not
happens
gonna,
like
it's
that.
not, this is not what we're doing. It's not, it's like building a house on a terrible foundation.
Hmm.
How long is that gonna last? It's not gonna
Yeah.
last very long, right?
And it's rare when it does happen. And when it does happen, sometimes the success is their undoing, right? Let's say they're local or something, or they're, maybe just stretched at their limits, and then an influencer posts about their product. There's a run on it, and they can't fill the shelves anymore. They can't get
Yeah,
the inventory. So that being aware and transparent of what your capabilities are and what they're not is important when you're dealing with the buyers. Just be
right.
realistic. Don't let your eyes get too big for your stomach, and that's a hard thing for entrepreneurs
It
to
is.
to do. So,
Yep.
which goes into the next one. So, learn to speak the buyer's language, right? You do the role playing. I mean, that's you got to look at it from their perspective, right?
Yep, you have to look at it from their perspective, which is why we give them that acronym. Sometimes we talk in acronyms, inside the program. So that way they're familiar and they
Hmm.
understand. If a buyer says, what's your FOB pricing, you need to know what they're talking about. You
Hmm.
can't say, I don't know what that is. I don't like you gotta know.
Yeah.
Like you gotta know. So those are some of the things that we help them with so that they can
And you
understand.
have to understand, Joe, it's not like we were born knowing these acronyms
Yeah.
and they were or knowing what they're going to ask. We would be or have a buyer on the phone because this was before Range Me, I think, when
Hmm.
we
Ranking didn't
started, it
exist.
didn't exist. So we'd be on the phone with a buyer, and the buyer would say something like, the MOQ,
Yeah.
Yeah.
MOQ.
Chevalo's job was to stall them, and I would Google, and we always had to jump in, and I would say, "This is what they're saying."
Right. Thank God for Google and the phone, right? Yeah. Well, the
We
other
know what they were
thing
talking about.
Yeah, the other thing is also, you touched on this before, is, you when you're pitching to them and you're talking to the buyers, it's like it's not about your product. It's about how you're going to serve them. What
Right,
problems, I think you said problems. What problems are you going to solve for the buyer? And that's the
right.
context. Sure, everybody loves their own baby, but
Yes.
it's like, what are you going to do? The buyer doesn't care about your product. The buyer cares about their category and its profitability and growth. So what are you doing to fix that? And I think that's the approach they need to take to it.
Yeah, especially when you're pitching a product that they already have so many of, like a
Mhm.
barbecue sauce or something like that. You
Yeah.
can't just come in there and say, this is the best barbecue sauce ever. Well, everyone says that. Like,
Hmm.
how is yours different? Like, why are you different than everything else on the shelf? Why should they give you shelf space when they don't even have it? And there's so
Hmm.
many other ones. So you better come in there and be able to answer that question and be able to back it up.
Yeah, that's true, especially in those categories, like you said, like sauces, beverages.
Yes.
Everyone's got a new beverage or functional. Now everything's a functional beverage. It's like,
Yes.
okay, well, how are you different than? And
Uh,
then the thing is, when you think about it, they've blurred it so much that you don't know what a functional beverage is. Like you put anything in it.
no.
Yep.
Technically, coffee's a functional beverage. It's got caffeine, if
That's
Hmm.
you
right.
think about it that way. So, okay, pricing must be strategic, not emotional. That's a very good one because you got to be realistic.
Got to be realistic. There are some people that are like way, way, way overpriced, and we are all for premium pricing. And
Hmm.
there are some products that are going to be more premium, especially when you're dealing with like, we have some people that have vegan products or gluten free. We know those products are going to be priced more premium,
Hmm.
but it also has to make sense for the consumer. And you also have to take into account which retailer are you looking to have shelf space in. You think about
Yeah.
Walmart, even though Walmart is starting to have some of those more premium products and natural products, they're not there yet. So if you have a product like that, then you should be looking at different retailers that can
Yeah.
support that, maybe like a Wegmans or like
Hmm.
Whole Foods or something like that.
Facts.
And so, be with pricing, and sometimes we do have different pricing. Our price that we sold in Walmart for was not the price we sold in Whole Foods for, which was not the price we sold on Amazon
Hmm.
for. So also, your pricing has to make sense, and you have to understand your retailer and understand those customers. What are they looking for when they come in the door? Are they
Hmm.
looking for value? Or are they, I know we have a daughter that has to eat gluten free. I know when I shop for her, I'm not looking at the price. I'm
Yeah.
looking at, is it gluten free? Is it something that's gonna, that my daughter can digest easily? That's
Hmm.
all I'm looking for. If it checks those boxes, I'm gonna put it in the cart. It doesn't matter what the price is. But every customer is not that, and every retailer is not that, right?
Yeah. And related to that is you got to pick your spots. Maybe if you're a value product, you're not going to go in certain retailers and vice versa. If you're an ultra premium product, and you have to be happy with that. It's like, that's not my customer. It's like, you
Right.
can't
Right.
be like, I think you say in the book, you can't be everything to everybody because then you'll be nobody, nothing to nobody.
Nothing,
So,
Right.
nobody,
Yeah.
right?
And every deal is not your deal.
yeah.
We tell them that every deal is not your deal. Sometimes when some of our members are at ECRM, and sometimes they make it like a discount store, and they weren't able to make a deal. But those are one of the things we look at their Chevalo, and I have access to their meeting list, and we'll go through their meetings, and when we meet with them, I'll tell them before, this one you're probably not going to make a deal with because
Hmm.
they want a lower price. So know that when you go to the table, you're
Hmm.
probably not going to make a deal with this company, but that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Every deal is not your deal, and that's
Yep.
fine, and that's fine.
Unless you can pivot. Now, you guys have pivoted, like in your example, and there
Hmm.
was another one. Speaking of what you just said, right? So that's the next another lesson in the chapter. Always be ready to pivot. Now, there's one guy. Speaking of the price thing,
Yeah.
so one guy, he actually used to be an ECRM employee. His name is Kevin Consolo. He's got a brand
Hmm.
called Sneaker Racers, right? It's a shoe cleaner. And he's
Ooh.
evolved into a whole bunch of different, he's got an auto eraser, a golf eraser. So the different lines of products. But what was cool was he was pitching his product to a value, a discount retailer. And they're like, you can't, it's too expensive, Robert. You can't. So what did he do? He ended up knocking off his own product with a lower cost value products called shoe erasers that
Yeah.
sells in the discount stores. So
Isn't
when he
that something?
pitched on Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary was like, "Your product looks like something that could be easily copied or whatever." And Kevin's like, "Yeah, in fact, it has been." And then he pulls out the other one by us. So yeah,
That is something.
so he ended up getting two sharks come on board, but it was the pivot, and that happened at a buyer meeting at ECRM. He was meeting with a discount chain, and they're like, "We can't take your product. We need something." So he went overseas, found a factory because he makes it his other product in the U.S. So he's
Right.
like, he went and he found a way to do it. So, and you guys did the same thing. You realize you can't sell burgers. You
Mhm.
can't move them. They're not shelf stable in the way you wanted to. So you pivoted and you made the marinades. So talk about pivot, the value of pivoting.
The value of pivoting, and this is something also like
Mhm.
usually when the person first comes in the program, I dissect their recipe. Like whatever they say they're coming with, like Chevalo and I, we're gonna go deep in
Hmm.
and we'll figure out like, okay, pivot. So we do that from the beginning. But for us, being able, we initially thought the hamburger was the product, the
Right.
pivot was the marinade.
Hmm.
But then we also said, well, it needs a sauce. So then we did the sauce,
Yeah.
but the sauce really is pretty similar to the marinade, just except for like a few ingredients.
Hmm.
We did that. And then once we were ready, then we came back to the burgers. But that was after we had
Yeah. Hmm.
distribution, enough money to
Establish
be able, we
ourselves.
established
Hmm.
ourselves, we were comfortable being retail, being suppliers, and we had the cash flow to be able to support a frozen product in
Hmm.
retail.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important. Yeah.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
so many people come to us, Joe, especially in baking, like bakery owners,
Hmm.
and they have a cake that they want, the finished cake that they want to get in retail.
Hmm.
And they come to us, we have their introductory call, and one of the things Monique discusses with them.
I tell them we're not going to present a finished cake because what does that
Hmm.
have, a 3-day shelf life? Like
Yep.
that doesn't make any sense. We're in a
No,
cake mix. We're
that's what
going to do
bakeries are for. Yeah.
exactly. So we're gonna sell it in a pouch, and it's gonna, or it's gonna a box, and it's gonna be a cake mix, and that's
Hmm.
gonna be the original product. Once you become a great supplier a few years down the road, if you want to approach them,
Hmm.
or we can do food service and have it in larger pouches, and then you can pitch their bakery. So
Yeah.
there are different ways that we can present the product, but almost always like people
Yeah.
come
Yeah,
where
for the fish fry, we have fish fry people who come and they have, and we say,
Mhm.
listen, it's not the fish
Yeah,
they want the
they
seasoning.
want people to
Hmm.
have
The
that
seasoning
fish, and
mix.
I'm like, we can't take that fish into the retailer.
Yeah.
They can taste it, but that's not going to be the product.
And then they get excited because with the shelf stable mixes, that is something that they can actually build a following by selling it through their website and through
Hmm.
Amazon and shipping it across the country, even around the world.
Yeah.
Having a shelf stable product. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think pivoting is also the ability to pivot in other ways is important too, as we've seen over the years, COVID, or you've seen when the ports closed, or when you had the Suez Canal, that the shipping the ship got
Yes.
stuck there, and
Yep.
or tariffs. You have to be able to kind of I've interviewed suppliers when we had the supply chain issues after COVID, and like some of them were like, yeah, we moved our manufacturing closer to these ports, or we
Right.
moved it to another country, or we make our own packaging now. So like different things like that. So it's just always you want to be able to pivot in the product, but also be able to pivot in the operations.
Yep.
So, okay, I skipped, we got a couple left. I skipped one. Don't cut corners on packaging.
Ooh.
I'm definitely with you on that one because it makes a difference.
It makes a difference. Go ahead, Shimon.
Yeah, I mean that it's something that was counterintuitive to us as new suppliers.
Mhm.
We're like, let's just get any packaging, or let's just go on the internet, go on what is it, Etsy or something, and
Mhm.
make up our packaging, make up a label, a logo, and all of that. but didn't really understand the value of it until an expert explained the
Hmm.
value of having packaging, and that actually reflects our vision. And I just remember that early time when they interviewed us, our graphic designer who deals with packaging interviewed us and said, like, what type of people are you? Are you flashy? Are you more, are you more earth tone? Are you more like
Hmm.
flashy color? They went all these questions I think had nothing to do with just create a logo and a package for us, dude.
Hmm.
But no, went through all of that and understood our personality. That Charleston gourmet burger bottle represents us.
It
Hmm.
represents us, but I think, when
Mhm.
and we run into people like this as well. When we started this and we thought packaging, we didn't really understand what does that entail, right? What
Mhm.
does it entail? And so sometimes when we ask people, your branding and your packaging, it's intertwined. So sometimes we meet people and they're like, "Yeah, I have it," and then when we get on the Zoom, they have one little logo
Hmm.
that someone designed for them, and the packaging is just like a little bag,
Hmm.
and that's it. And it's very obvious that it was printed at home, that it's not professional, that's not packaging, and is
Hmm.
not retail ready. And so Chevalo and I, we ended up hiring a professional consultant, and they did our packaging, our branding, our packaging, and everything. And back then, that it was 15,000. I mean, it's more
Hmm.
now, but when you say that to someone, they're like $15,000. Let me tell you something. That money that we spent
Oh
on
yeah.
our packaging has paid for itself
Hmm.
over and over again. But one of the things we didn't understand as far as packaging, and I'm talking, what your product is actually going in, you know, again, you don't know what you don't know. But if you have a sauce, and it's important, this is why the steps are important, right?
Yes.
So if you have a sauce and your sauce has to be what's considered a hot fill, meaning it has to be cooked to a certain temperature,
Hmm.
it has to go in a particular type of bottle to withstand that heat. But not only does it have to go in a particular type of bottle to withstand the heat, it has to have a particular type of label because it's being labeled, it's going down the line. So if
Hmm.
that label
Yeah.
is not for a hot fill bottle, when your product gets to the grocery store, the label's going to do this and it's going to come off. You've ever seen product at the grocery store where the label is like that, or it's
Hmm.
like, because it's the wrong label.
Yeah.
There's
And it
so
just looks
many things.
cheap. It
It
looks
just
cheap.
looks it
Yeah.
looks cheap. It feels cheap. It's not the right thing. So
Hmm.
your everything did this. What That's why it's a system. That's why
Hmm.
you can't rush this. Everything has to be done the proper way. It's just like if you have a frozen product and the cardboard you're using is not made to go inside of a freezer with that condensation, it's not going
Hmm.
to look right.
How do we
Yep.
know
How do we know that? Because we've been through it. We've done
that?
Yeah. Well, that's true. And you hit on 2 points, right? You got the visual side, right? You wanted to convey the brand. You wanted to give all the essential information, the call outs and all that, the colors. It's got to pop on the shelf. But the structural packaging also, because that impacts the user experience, right? And also it could impact the ingredients too if it's not the right stuff. Uh
Yeah.
so yeah, so it's well worth the investment. And that actually segues into the next one. We have two left. Invest in your brand early, right? So you were just talking about 15,000 unpacked. So invest in your brand early, right? Get that stuff done up front. How valuable is that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
valuable because it's the foundation.
It's
Hmm.
the foundation. We do have a branding company that we have three now, that specifically work with our recipe for retail members. They give
Hmm.
them discounted pricing. So not only are they doing like as far as like their logo and like their whole brand identity, they're
Hmm.
also doing the photography.
Okay.
So it's important, like if you have pancakes, yes, our iPhones are beautiful, but you can't, you need to be, those photos have to be taken with a food photographer
Hmm.
that has an eye that understands how to take photos for food. And that is what's placed on the packaging, not an
Yep.
iPhone photo that you've taken.
Hmm.
But all of that stuff is done early. But why are we doing that, Joe? Is because again, everything fits together.
It's
We're
Mhm.
telling
intentional.
this story. We're telling this story. So invest in your brand early. Lifestyle photography. We're making sure they
Mhm.
have that. Because again, we want to not only be, you know, we don't want to just be telling the story. We want the photos to be telling the story. We want your website to be telling your story as well. So if
Mhm.
someone goes to your website, they should see the beautiful photography. So those are also things that we're working on with our members. Is your website telling the story? It's
Mhm.
not, it does so many
And
things.
it needs to
So
be consistent in its look and feel to your
Mhm.
actual product.
right,
Yeah.
Everything needs to be in consistent together. And
right,
that it makes a difference. And again, unless somebody explains this to you, and that's the magic of Recipe for Retail, and the magic of the book of being able to explain these things to people early, and
Mhm.
that they can not make the mistakes of later on, as so many people come in the program that they've already done a lot of things. They've already spent all this money. Then they now have to go back
and do it
and
Yeah.
again.
fix.
Better to do it up front, get everything done with up front, make the mistakes up front, do the investment up front, and then this way you're set. Because otherwise
Exactly.
later on, then you got to take steps back if you
It's
make a
more
Right.
mistake
expensive. It's
later.
more expensive going back.
Yes, definitely. So the last one, celebrate every win.
Yes, that's so important because I know with Chevalo and I, we really had to be intentional with doing this because we would be working on a deal, and by the time we announced it on our social media, we had already been working on that deal for so long, we were on to something else. So other people were celebrating for us, and we were like on to doing something else.
Hmm.
And we just sometimes we didn't stop to smell the roses. We
Hmm.
really didn't. And I think that's important to celebrate every win because this is hard. If it was easy,
Hmm.
everyone would be doing it, right?
Yep.
And so you want to make sure, and that's one of the things we tell people in our program. Like sometimes they're like, yeah, well, it was just, I only just got this many stores. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. You got 0 stores. So we're not going to like be down because you only have 10 stores or whatever. Like, we're going to clap that up. We're going to celebrate that. And you celebrate every win and be proud because it could have been 0. It could have been a no, right? So
Hmm.
I think it's important to
Sure.
celebrate.
Yes, you have to. I mean,
Yep.
it may seem like a little thing to have your package, your product packaged, or to have found a co-packer
Hmm.
that can do your product, and they finally got it right. Those are things to celebrate. You need to jump
Yeah.
up and down because there's so many
Every step.
ups and down every step, and it keeps you in a psychological balance to
Hmm.
not just be down, because there are downs and challenges. There's challenges at certain times, but when you celebrate your wins, you could be more steady.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you should be celebrating the release of the book. So everybody, so again, from kitchen to cash register, you could find it on
Yes.
Amazon. You could find Monique and Chevalo on Facebook, on Instagram. Just look up Recipe for Retail. Um, thank you guys so much. Can you believe we spent a half an hour, more than a half an hour, just on one chapter? So everyone's going to
Yes.
get a
Wow.
lot from this.
I tell
But
you,
really, thank you so much for joining us, and I will be seeing you guys soon.
it
Yes,
sounds
you'll be
good.
seeing us soon. Easy read. We wrote it so you can read it in a weekend. So you can be on
Yep,
your way.
I did.
Yes.
Thanks again.
All
You're
right, Joe. Thank
welcome.
you.